Hello, and welcome to Mentor Dino. I'm your host, Caitlin Rossier. I am an architect and founder of Mentor Dino. I firmly believe that architecture, engineering, and construction professionals can achieve true success by embracing human skills as their guiding principle. So each week, I interview amazing professionals in and around the AEC industry as a way to share stories, inspiration, and advice for others finding their own unique career path. Thank you to all of our current subscribers, and if you're new, we'd love to have you join our community. So if you like this episode, please do me a favor and hit subscribe, like, or leave a comment below. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support them on their own career journey. So let's dive in. I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Welcome, everyone, to the Mentor Dino podcast. I would like to welcome Brenna Moore, a heavy equipment operator in Marysville, Washington. Thank you so much, Brenna, for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you for having me.
And so I always start off my podcast with the loaded question on just how did you get to where you are today and kind of what steps took you there?
So I honestly didn't grow up in the best home with my mother, and I remember she dated these men because she couldn't afford to support herself. And I just remember when I finally moved in with my dad when I was 13, I just made this vow to myself that I would always be able to financially take care of myself and my future children. And I looked into college, I looked into all these things, and the student loan debt, it was just astronomical. And I started running tractors with my grandfather when I was 5 years old. So I knew I was good with levers. I knew I loved the dirt. I knew I loved all that. And then so when the opportunity arose that I could join an apprenticeship program and still make an amazing living with good health benefits that could make a good future. And it's a skill set. A skill set is always needed, right? When the economy crashes, roads are still getting damaged. Bridges still need to be replaced, whereas office jobs might dwindle down. So having that skill set in the apprenticeship, it gave me more than a piece of paper that said, hey, this is why you should hire me. So it's an ever-growing infrastructure. They're making improvements every day. So that's why I chose that direction.
Yeah, and that's really important because the student loans are just absolutely insane right now. Like even growing up, since I'm an architect, everybody's like, oh, architects make great money. And like, no, we don't. And then you've got people going to these Ivy League schools with tremendous debt and you're not coming out making the money. Whereas the more I'm learning about trades, no matter what trade you go into, they're paying you to teach you. So it's like going for your college degree, but they're paying you to do it and you're not having that debt and you can just start making a living right away. So
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is even when it does get slow, like, yes, I'm an operator, yes, I'm a lead, but if it got super slow, I could get in the trench and shovel and still make the same amount of money. So there's always something that you can be doing. And a lot of it too is you meet a lot of cool people, and those people move up, they go to different companies, things like that. So there's massive networking. So if things do get too slow, they're like, hey, I need a dozer operator. And you're like, hey,
I can operate one.
Yeah.
I've only ever taken a picture like next to one. I never actually like sat in one, but I've been doing a lot of fit outs lately. So
Where
I need
do you
a new
live?
construction project. I'm out in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
I was going to say, you can come to my job and sit in the loader and run it if you want.
I know we're trying to plan a like Washington State vacation this year. So I will let you know if that ends up happening and I end up your way. And I may be like, hey, can we take a side trip so I can try to find you on your construction site?
That'd be awesome.
And I swear I wouldn't touch anything.
It's fine. I can fix if you mess anything up.
Yeah. But you mentioned you journeyed out faster because you were working so many hours. So in your I'm not sure if that was still in the apprenticeship side and gaining experience. Like, how is that process? Like, do they train you and then you need a certain number of hours doing that job? And
So
then, yeah.
you do need a certain number of hours. I believe it's around 6,000, but working so many hours and I was meeting the criteria that I essentially just tested out. So a lot of times in apprenticeships, you start out on a roller, things like that, and you don't get to have all this experience right out of the gate. But when I went to a crusher, a quarry, where they make, 5/8 minus, the rockery, sand and gravel materials, I was able to do all of those things in basically a safe little playpen
Hmm.
surrounded by mountains. So I really got to get in there and get my boots dirty. Just ready, set, go.
Yeah.
Instead of like the road work where a lot of times it's more dangerous because there's cars around, things like that. So I got to develop my skills, but in a very safe place.
Yeah, I like learning how to drive.
Yeah.
My dad had me like park between school buses when that happened because he's like, "What's going to happen? It's a school bus. Your little car's not going to do anything."
Yeah.
Um, but with that process and like, do you like take an actual test, or are they watching to see, hey, can you achieve this goal? Like,
So
is it more of
some
a operating, showing somebody test, or is it like a paper test?
so it's more of an operating test. Sometimes a lot of apprentices have to go over to the actual school to take the test and test out.
Hmm.
But I had a union shop steward there who said, no, she meets the criteria. We're going to journey her out. So
Gotcha.
basically, my work spoke for itself test wise. And he said, no, she's good. We want to journey her out. We want to take her to the next level.
Awesome. So then do you have to like get approved on all the different types of equipment? So like you talk about a roller, so I'm assuming like from seeing roadway construction, like it's the giant roll that you would see on the front with the
Mm-hmm.
back. And then I'm going very kid rogue, like the giant scoop machine versus like the pusher guy. Like I wish I had like a little son that I could like play with all the toys and be like, what's this? What's this?
So it honestly just depends on the route that you end up on when you get sent out to a
Hmm.
job site. I mean, I started on a roller, and my first day, I think I was on a roller for like 3 days. When I first got on that roller, I was scared. I was like, this thing is huge. And then
Hmm.
there's vibing and not vibing, and there's literally an art to rolling. It's surprisingly a dangerous machine if you're close to like a slope because you could vibe off of it,
Yeah.
things like that. Um, so I was on a roller for 3 days, and then the journeyman that I was working with was actually sick, and somebody had to run the D6, which is a dozer. So I ended up running a dozer immediately. Normally it goes like roller, loader, excavator, dozer, but I went straight to dozer.
Well, hey, that happens in every career. It's like, if somebody leaves their current position or sick or has like can't do something, a lot of the times it's, hey, who's
Yeah.
next in line? Here's an opportunity. Let's go teach you how to do something new and grow that you may have not have been expecting that week for unforeseen conditions. So,
Yeah, and to have the opportunity to be put on a dozer that fast is actually extremely rare because dozers are mainly for like the blade hands, the journeyman that I've been doing this and doing that. But I'm not going to say luckily he was sick because it's unfortunate, but I was thrown in the fire out of the gate and they just wanted
mhm.
to see what I could do. And they saw I could run pretty smooth grade with the dirt and they left me on it.
Yeah. Now that's interesting that there's different levels with it. Like I would assume you'd have to get trained on how to operate one piece of equipment versus another, but understanding that certain types of equipment align with a particular skill level, like I don't want to say rank, but usually you have a certain number of hours before you jump into that piece of equipment to begin with.
Honestly, I think that's how it is more now. They're waiting until they see like kind of your coordination, how you are with safety, your awareness.
Hmm.
And that's what I do like to see now because I'm gonna be really honest. My first time in an excavator, my foreman said, "Get in that, pull that slope down, don't kill yourself. I'll be back in a couple hours." Never been in it. And I was like,
Okay.
so how to make the bucket move? Okay, this one goes this way, this one, okay. And next thing you know, I'm just going down. But it was very just, see you later, figure it
Yeah.
out.
Is
So,
everything levers, or is like anything like
so,
button lever, like what movements are you doing?
so with a roller, you have a steering wheel and then like a little joystick on the side, and then a loader has a steering wheel, a brake, and an accelerator that you can run at the same time.
Hmm.
And then what I operate in my loader is a twin stick, so my fingers are going like this all day. So I have two little sticks that I have to do at once. Um, and then a backhoe has a steering wheel and the same kind of stick shift on the side, or I'm sorry, joystick on the side. An excavator has two joysticks on each side. A dozer, same thing. Unless you get the ancient dinosaurs, then you got a bunch of levers in front of you. And then a blade, the newer ones have the sticks, but the older ones, you like all of your fingers are doing something at the same time, and I have very
Hmm.
small hands. So
Now, what one's the blade?
the blade
That's
is the one, it has a cab on it. It has six tires, so there's three axles, I believe, and then there's this big long blade. A lot of times you see it for finish paving.
okay.
It's
Yeah.
or road grader is also what it's called. That you don't see them very often unless it's like I said, getting ready for finish pave.
Gotcha. Okay. I had to Google it, but now I get it. um, you also mentioned working union and non-union. I know from my side, I only ever really document if it has to be union labor or not in terms of the contractor and who they can work with on the job site. From your perspective, how is the differences on your side, and what does that mean to you?
I feel like union, they have the best benefits, they have the best financial stability, they have the most work, but also it is very big companies that are
Mm-hmm.
in the union, you know. And non-union is typically the smaller outfits. And the thing that I did really value about working non-union was it was that family setting. You know, you did the Christmas dinners together. If your kids are sick, they're like, no, go. You know,
Mm-hmm.
whereas like the bigger companies, you are kind of in this mix of
Mm-hmm.
everybody. But I have noticed that that has been changing, especially at the Walsh Group. That's the first place that I felt like I am more than just a number. So
Mm-hmm.
they do a really good job in making you feel like you are a part of a team, and that if they were to lose you, it would be a loss. Not, oh, we'll just call the hall and get somebody else.
Yeah.
Because that's been the mentality for a long time is, oh, there's more where that came from. But it's nice to feel valued somewhere that could do that because they are such a big company.
Yeah. Now, do the big companies, like, I'm trying to think of if I were looking for a job as a heavy equipment operator, am I going and getting a job from my local union, or am I getting hired by that big contracting company? Like, who's hiring you, or are you more of a um, solo professional that, hey, I can do these and grab whatever jobs as they come available? How's that work?
So there is a union list where, like, if you get laid off, you can call the hall, you say, I'm out of work, and it's called the out of work list. And then it gives you a number of where you fall on that list for how many operators are in front of you.
Okay.
But as a journeyman, you can still solicit your own work. For example, I was at Northwest Construction, and then my superintendent from when I was 19, one of the ones that really took me under his wing and got me through all the tough days when I first started, he texted me one day and he said, I need you at Walsh. I need your help. And so I put in my 2 weeks at Northwest and I started at Walsh the following Tuesday.
Okay.
So you can still treat it as if you're putting in your 2 weeks and getting hired somewhere
Hmm.
else. But there is always that out of work list to fall on where you will automatically be sent out to a new job, even if you don't have a contact.
Gotcha. So what types of projects are you currently working on?
Right now, I'm actually doing the Mercer Island Conveyance Project.
So what's that one?
So that is running HDPE through Lake Washington. It's high density pipe.
Okay. Because you can really do anything, because you could do any of the utility work. You could help with
Mm-hmm.
roadway and
Yep.
bridges. You could help with actual building construction.
Yep.
Like, that's diversity I didn't really think about in terms of, like, I'm an architect. I don't do bridges. I don't really do utility upgrades. Like, I'm kind of stuck in the built buildings environment,
Yeah.
or could branch out to urban design, but it's kind of in this little pigeonhole.
Well, and that's what's cool is, I mean, obviously every project is essentially the same for that project, but it's still something new every day. I mean, one day you're digging to put in new water line, the next day you're grading out a trail, the day after that you may be loading trucks all day. It's just every day is different. So I think it really helps with that feeling of just being stagnant in your career. And
Mm-hmm.
you're constantly learning. Like I've been in 11 years and I'll still learn a cool new trick and be like, why did it take me this long to know that? Because that's why a lot of times, even if I know what I'm doing, even if I know exactly how I've done it and it's worked, I will still listen to somebody who wants to explain it thinking that I don't know because they may have a better way
Mm-hmm.
and that will improve and you can build off of what you already do know.
Yeah. So besides doing different types of projects and using equipment, what other kind of growth development options do you have at this point in your career?
So at this point, I have been leading the import and export side of the project. Then you can do foremanship, superintendent, or also if I wanted to take classes, I could venture into more of the project management. But having all the field experience would greatly help that because project managers, they went to school, they know their stuff, and everything looks great on paper,
Mm-hmm.
but I know what it's like to get 20 feet down and it's just not what's supposed to be there. So having that other perspective to go along with the technicalities of everything, I feel like would be really beneficial.
Yeah. When I talked to one of my friends that he was more of a project manager, now a director of construction, he kind of explained there's kind of two paths, like kind of that superintendent path and then kind of that
Hmm.
PM path that you
Yeah.
can take. But it didn't, when talking to him, it didn't sound like you couldn't crisscross. And that seems the same. Like you could still, even with all your infield experience, you could still pivot later into a
Yeah.
PM or go into a super.
Yeah, the biggest difference I think between a project manager and a superintendent is the superintendent still kind of has his boots on the ground with the crew, and then a
Mm-hmm.
project manager is more keeping everything in line structurally and making sure that also they're a huge support to the superintendent. So
Yeah.
both of them a lot of responsibility. Just I think one is a little more office, and one is more out in the field still.
Yeah. I always lean on my supers, especially if you weren't expecting something to be somewhere or if we have to make a change. I always like talking to the people that are in the field and just see how would you do it? Because I'm
Yeah,
more that in the office, I can draw something. And
yeah,
I've learned a lot by, hey, you can draw something in 2D, but it's not what it's going to look like in 3D when you actually see it all come together. So it's really everybody in the field that I try to learn from more than the architects at this point. I'm like, how would you do it so I can do it better? But looking at the kind of two kind of discussion points. Being a female in the trades, are there a lot of females doing the heavy equipment operating side? Or have you seen that growth change over the last 11 years?
I think it has. I've seen a lot more women get into the laborers union. Like currently, there's multiple women on my project, but I am the only female heavy equipment operator on the project.
Mm-hmm.
But I have seen a lot more women getting involved because it is a great living. It is a great way to support yourself and your family. And it's, again, no student loans. You're not stuck in an office all day. I personally thrive in the fresh air, whether it's pouring down rain or sunny out. When it hits about 100 degrees, I get a little grumpy, but
Yeah, it gets hot in there. Now, how was it when you had your daughter, right? So you took some time off. Have you found you had to do that then? Have you noticed any changes for moms in construction?
so I had my daughter, and then after she was 6 months old and I was ready to go back to work, then COVID-19 hit, and then there was no daycares open. Obviously, there was the shutdowns. And then when I did go back about 2 years later, I was honestly afraid. Like, I hadn't been in a piece of gear for a couple years, and I just felt like I wasn't going to perform,
Mm-hmm.
at least not at the level that you actually need to be a union heavy equipment operator. So, as a union heavy equipment operator, you actually aren't supposed to run heavy equipment for non-union companies. However, you can be a laborer or a pipe layer. So I got back into construction, got my foot back in by being a laborer and pipe layer again. And then after about a year of doing that, then I was looking around and I'm like, I can do this. I can do this again.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I put my name on the list and I was ready to go again.
And just build that confidence back up.
Yeah, it was just, I just had to get back out there, get the dirt on my boots. I had to smell the burning diesel. I just had to get back in that, just, I can't even explain to you what that area feels like. But once you're out of it for a while and you get back into it, you're like, oh, this is home. I miss this.
This is what it was.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of discussion with kind of the numbers within the seasoned trade professionals, and we're going to be hitting a point where so many are retiring by 2030. What do you think, from your perspective, is happening within the construction industry and the trades? And what do you think are some steps we could do to start trying to improve that before everybody retires?
I think flat out the industry is going to have to evolve because people are evolving. You can break it down back to parenting. People are parenting their children differently. So
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to go to work and be miserable. And I know when I got into construction, I was loyal out of fear. Like, I was loyal out of, am I not good enough? I need to work harder than this person. Oh, they didn't say I was doing a good job. I need to work even harder. And it just makes for a miserable morale for yourself. And nobody wants to do that anymore. They just
Mm-hmm.
don't. So I have an apprentice laborer that works with me every day. And for example, he didn't care. He had no work ethic. He was late all the time. And so when he wasn't changing, no matter what route I took from what I was essentially accustomed to or believed was the traditional construction way,
Mm-hmm.
I took a step back. It's like, what can I change to cause a change within himself and be better? So I started doing basically almost what I do with my daughter: give praise when deserved and give direction when needed. And it was a complete 180. He shows up 10 minutes early every day now. I have to tell him to slow down sometimes because he's just bouncing off the project walls, and he's just always making sure that what needs to be done is done, and checks in with me to see if I need anything extra. If he can tell it's a super busy day and I'm just going a million miles at once, what can I do to help you? How can I do this? How can I do that? And a lot of people on the job site are like, how did you do that? I said, I just changed my approach with him.
Hmm.
And there's this stereotype that construction, it's just that hardcore breed. And it is. It does take a special individual to be out there. But at the same time, if you want the industry to keep growing, we have to want to teach the younger generations instead of just, like I said, my first foreman put me in the excavator, said, don't kill yourself, I'll be back later. That's really intimidating to young adults.
Yeah.
So, and if they're afraid of what they're doing, they're not going to grow. They're not going to be excited about it. You have to get people excited to learn. And that's the best way that we can go about anything with getting kids to want to go in the trades, like with that Build Her program that I do. All of them, every single one of them, looked terrified when they walked with me into the excavator to play the uh, basketball dunk game where I taught them how to run it.
Yeah.
But all of them were just terrified. And then I got them in the seat, talked to them a little bit, showed them how to do it, and was just really positive. I'm like, you got this. You can do this. And every single one of them did it. And they were so excited afterwards. And the confidence, even the self-confidence they had walking away from that excavator was freaking amazing. Like, I don't know who needed that more, me or them, because just seeing how all of them transformed in that little amount of time, it was amazing. And I think that's when I really changed my outlook on how we should be bringing the new generation up.
Yeah.
Times are changing, and it's just like in a storm. Like, the big stubborn trees are gonna fall, they're gonna break because they won't bend. But you have the flexible ones, they'll bend in the winds of change, and they'll survive the storm and keep growing. So
Yeah. That's a great analogy. Because
thank you.
I know, I mean, we don't have an engineer on the call, but the AEC industry in general, like it is hard. It is demanding because we do have to meet deadlines. There's different risks associated with different tasks or things we're trying to do. And sometimes, yeah, people can get heated. Like, we get all worried whenever product delays happen. But there's nothing you can do about it. There's a lot of times just factors happen. Like, if a giant storm comes through, I'm sure you can't do the job you were expecting to do that day, but you can't control the weather, and neither can the client or the owner, and you just have to be able to pivot and stop worrying about it. But I remember when I started my career, I was very afraid of messing up anything, and that's just on the drawing side, and I'm not actually building something actively. And it was, okay, I can't mess up, I got to do this right. And those professionals that were just so downgrading to how bad you were doing was super detrimental to what any growth I was doing. And if I asked for help, you couldn't get the support. But the second you got professionals that were able to support you when you needed it, could give you a long leash, pull you back in if you're going a wrong direction, and just walk you through some steps. But even being on site, like the superintendents I have worked with that have just been a lot more welcoming. Some of the first sites I was on, I was the only female on site. I was the only female in the trailer. People wouldn't give me the time of day on site. They'd be like, oh, what do you know? You're just some little girl type scenario. But the professionals that were like, yeah, okay, what do you want? What do you need? Let's get this together. And could get over the either age issue to what do
Yeah.
you know, or the I am a female in the profession, like just go do paperwork and go get me a coffee. I'm like, no, you need to listen to me. I'm the architect. And so it's all those dynamics that I think the older generation leaving probably isn't a bad thing, but apologies to any of my senior professionals that I do really love working with. But it's that next generation of how can we pivot and change how the industry goes.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like I said, when you are brought up through the industry, led out of fear, and you're trying to grow out of fear, you're essentially still trapped in this little shell, right? Like, you're afraid to speak up. You think that you may know a way to improve the system of what's going on, but you don't want to say anything, right? Because they know best. They've been doing this longer. They're older.
Yeah.
They think you're just a girl. Well, I felt like that my entire career. And then, like I said, I went to the Walsh Group, and I got sent to, like I said, the import-export side. And the first couple weeks, I mean, things functioned. It was fine. And then so I think there was a lot of don't fix it if it's not broke.
Mm-hmm.
But it just essentially wasn't working for me. I was like, there's so many things we could do to improve safety, to improve production numbers, to improve the flow of how fast these trucks get in and out. And it's a very tight space, and trucks would they were everywhere. And I was like, no, I need structure, because structure is smooth, and smooth is fast, and fast is bigger production numbers, and also still safe. So finally, my superintendent said, it's your yard, do what you want. And I just broke out of this shell, and I was like, I want this, I want this, I want this, and I need this changed, and I need that changed. And he looked at me, and he's like, you've really been thinking about this. I was like, I've been thinking about this every day. I just haven't said anything. And then he said, why? I said, because you guys already have your way. And he said, but nobody's brought something to the table like this. So we implemented everything. And next thing you know, the senior superintendent comes down. I thought I was in trouble. And he goes, so you changed a lot of things down here. I said, yeah. And I'm just shaking in my boots. And he goes, I just wanted to come down and let you know that you broke all the trucking records for this project. We have never hauled this much material in and out till you got here.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it's just, I finally found a place that just let me spread my wings and do my thing. And it's been really positive. And so my yard feeds all the zones, because the project has different zones and different crews. I'm like the heart of that. So if I don't get trucks in and out, they're not getting their 5/8. They're not getting the dirt brought to me. So if I stall, the whole project stalls.
Yeah.
We can't have that. So
no.
I think it's giving people that space to open up and bring their ideas out and not be criticized for it. Even if it is just, that's a really good idea, you're on the right track, but we're going to continue to do it this way because of A, B, C, D, and maybe safety.
Yeah.
But we can work towards that maybe in just another angle. Because so many people are told, well, let's do this way. And like, oh, no, we don't do it that way. Oh, no, we've been doing it this way for years.
But then
you just get tired. And then you just get tired of speaking up. Or, oh, no, you belong in the kitchen. So, it's just, I think a lot of the bigger companies, like the Walshes, they want more women because they're seeing the effect that it has. Like, we're really good at boosting morale. The whole job site could be burning down, and we will find one way or another to make everybody smile again, right?
Yeah.
And high stress is a huge safety hazard, because if you're super stressed out, you're not going to see this coming, you're not going to see that coming, and it just makes everything better when everybody can just come together and be a team again, and then lay out how we're going to go about fixing it.
Yeah, and you need to be able to plan everything out, because then if you're stressed trying to hit right at the deadline that, oh my gosh, we're behind on these loads, now we're trying to catch up, then there's going to be issues in other areas that you're not doing it the proper speed or the safest way, or you're trying to fit too many things in a tight spot. Like, I find that a lot with my drillings. I try to tell people, here's the deadline, here's my deadline I'm setting. So then, like, I'm not stressed leading right up to it, because then what's not coordinated? What did I miss? Then I start having errors on my drawings that then is an issue on the job site. So it's like the trickle down effect that stress can have in managing at like all levels within the industry. Everybody needs to calm down.
Yeah, that's the other thing is I have, sometimes 20 truck and trailers, which without seeing the specific area, it doesn't sound like much, but it'll get very chaotic. And to be able to keep all of them in sync, and when one of them starts to wander off a little bit, getting him back in gear, it's you have to keep the structure and the harmony between everybody to make that place flow. Because if you get one grumpy driver, the whole day can take a huge turn. So
Yeah.
it's just having that, like a lot of the people that I've met, their way of keeping truck drivers in line is just yelling. It's just, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Versus just trying to tell everybody, this is the plan.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it's going to go. And let's have a great day. And then it's super weird how their attitudes just spark up and, oh, good morning, Brenna. Have a good day, Brenna. See you in a couple hours, Brenna. What can I do, Brenna?
Yeah.
Is this okay over here, or do you want me to try to get it closer for you? And it just blows a lot of people's minds that all these truck drivers will come in and ask me what I want instead of doing what they want.
Yeah. Just dumping and going. And you're
Yep.
like, that's not even right.
Yep.
So, do you have any advice for high school students trying to figure out what career path they want to go on, whether it's they already know they want to go in the trades and they want to maybe get their feet wet, or they're contemplating college. College not is not for everybody. So, what opportunities or advice would you give to them to either get their feet wet or talk to somebody to see if that's the right career path for them?
I know they're doing trades days in high schools now, and they're doing things like the Can't Build Her program, and that helps them get a hands-on experience. Because I know I was out there helping them operate an excavator, but they also got to look at carpentry and hear from other women professionals in the industry that have came up. And also, if you go into the trades, you can go in when you're 18. As soon as you graduate high school, you can start building your career at that point, not graduating in high school, spending 2 to 4 years in college, then starting your career and paying off your student loan debt to really start living your life with the career that you chose. In construction and other trades, you can just go right out of the gate and start building your future. And that doesn't just go for your career future, that goes for your family future. The goals that you have, the things that you want, you can obtain those a lot sooner, especially because now the trades, the financial wages are very competitive to people that hold 4 year degrees now. They just got
Mm-hmm.
started a lot sooner.
Yeah, because you can start contributing 401k when you're 18 rather than waiting till if you're lucky to get in and out of college in 4 years. Because I know I had to go for my master's to be able to sit for any of my licensing exams. But as an architect track, I was 5 years of college and I went to a more affordable university than most of the other ones. But then I have to take, at the time, it was 7 exams. They're down to 6, but you have to pay for those on your own, and hopefully the firm will pay for it. You also have to spend a lot of time in your evenings studying for those. And it's what do you get back from it? And a lot of people, even in college, change their career paths, or there's a lot of architects that don't want to be architects anymore. And
Yeah.
after all of that education, and then you decide that, whereas the trades and jumping in and you're getting paid to learn, you can still pivot your career and learn something new. And so I'm sure if you wanted to go be a superintendent, you could, but you could also go be a PM. And there's other people that take the education route to PM, but there's so many different ways. And I'm probably more curious, but do you know what like an 18-year-old coming onto your job site would make starting out without any education? I don't know if you have that number
I
in your head.
I believe the operators is over $30 an hour right now.
Yeah, because that's you're not even going to start that after a college degree.
No.
At least
And
as an architect, engineers make more.
yeah.
But it's just, and then having to pay all the student debts. And it's like, well, if you could start kind of your nest egg and saving now, then you could afford a house, most likely, over somebody that also has to pay student loan debt. Or I have friends that are a vet and they've got their mortgage payment, their student loans are a mortgage payment, and then daycare for 2 kids is another mortgage payment. So it's
Yep.
like, all right, you're paying 3 mortgage payments with what you guys are bringing in. Like, it's financial things to have in your future. So And I know recently it was Women in Construction Week. Did you guys do anything special during that week to celebrate?
Actually, it was really cool. I know I sound like a broken record with the Walsh Group right now, but they actually reached out and asked if they could make me a Women in Construction spotlight. So Amanda from our office asked me some interview questions, and I answered them, and she did such an amazing job, this article on me, and she put pictures in there, and there was even, I sent in a photo of a picture of me and my grandpa on a Ford tractor when I was about 5 years old. So that was really cool to see that they wanted to recognize the women and the women of their company. And then that Friday they did a lunch for all of us and did photos, things like that. But it was really cool to see the from where I started, like how things were then to how they are now. It's absolutely amazing to me. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
before you were told you don't belong on the job site, now they hold the door open for you.
Yep.
You know, it, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely night and day, and
It is.
how
It
something
makes
can
me
change.
want to stay in the industry. Whereas before I questioned it sometimes, like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I doing out here? I don't want to be miserable all the time. But now I enjoy going to work. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the people that I work with. Even if it does get gritty, because it is still construction, it is still a
Yeah.
different breed. You know, it's nothing that isn't solved within a couple seconds.
Yeah.
You know, it's changed a lot.
And have there been any organizations, or is it more the union that you partner up with, like outside of the day job?
So I was invited by the National Association of Women in Construction for They Can't Build Her. They're the ones that put it all together and organized it. And working with them for that event, it really opened my eyes to how many young girls do want to be in construction someday. I mean, these girls were teenagers. They weren't even ready to graduate high school yet. And for me, it's really cool that most of us little girls, you know, we want to be fairy princesses when we grow
Mm-hmm.
up. But then it's like we can still be those and be in construction, run the big equipment, and still be feminine and be everything that we are and use that as our strength in the industry. Because we can bring our strengths to pair up with the men's strengths. And if you can do that, you have a whole ball of possibilities.
Yeah. And opportunities to break records on the job site. So,
Yeah.
um, I always like ending my podcast with this final question. And it's just, what advice do you have for young professionals just starting their career? So maybe if someone's just starting in the trades and starting an apprenticeship.
So my advice for people coming up into the trades is just be yourself. You don't have to be anything that you're not to impress anybody. You know, just learn as you go, grow as much as you can. Don't let the doubts of others become your limitations. Embrace your own energy. You know, when you slip your boots on, lace them up with confidence every day. Keep morale high, because when morale is high, that's when your production is high. And just be safe every day. Keep your head on a swivel. A lot can happen out there.
Yeah,
And the
no,
goal is to always make it home to our families.
that's fantastic advice. And you got, like, I always have my hard hat on. I tend to run into
Mm-hmm.
conduit hanging from the ceiling because then it's a lot higher than I'm used to. But
To be completely honest, the only time I've ever hit my head is when my hard hat is on.
yeah.
Because it's like, you know, a cat with their whiskers. It's not the same anymore.
Yeah, like there's length, or like if I'm
Yeah.
walking around the job site with my backpack, because I'll always like have my backpack of stuff, and I'm like, oh wait, I can't fit through between studs to get through spots, so I
Yeah.
have to like remember to take it off. But no, that is amazing advice. No matter what career path somebody decides to take, it's important to keep your head up.
So did that
But
sound weird?
yes, it sounds
Okay.
fantastic. But thank you so much, Brenna, for taking the time to speak with me. I know I learned so much, and I wish I heard this conversation whenever I was in high school. I don't know
Aw.
if it would have changed if I went the architect route or see other options. I didn't really like open it up. Like I said, I the high school I was at, it was you better go to college, and if you don't go to college, you're not going to be successful. And that is that's not what it is. But when it's getting beat into you, that's the direction you have to go. And if it doesn't feel right, hopefully it helps other people take a step into finding what works for them. And if they don't want to be behind a desk all day, they don't have to, and they can have fun and they can grow in their career.
Sometimes taking the road less traveled leaves you to discover the rewards that others won't find because they're just taking the everyday path that everybody's already done and there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing left there.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Brenna.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed our discussion today. Learn some advice to take with you and see how our industry is all tied together to create the world around us. Check out the description below for any links or resources we discussed. If you liked the episode, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support finding that career path that best works for them. If you know someone that has inspired your own career that you'd like me to interview, let me know in the comments below, or you can reach out to me via my website or LinkedIn. I'd be happy to share their story or your own. Thank you again, and I cannot wait for the next career story I get to share with you next week.